Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Fintech Combine. I am your host, Kris Kovacs, and this is the series where we talk with and sometimes about community-based institutions, their digital and business transformation projects, and we meet the innovators, entrepreneurs, and fintechs that make it all possible. On this episode, we're speaking with Colin Phillips, the Chief Technology Officer at Lodestar, about how his company is helping credit unions make better use of their data. So if you're ready, let's suit up and get out on the field. So, Colin, thank you very much for joining us. Welcome to the Fintech Combine. Why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself and your company, Lodestar?
Yes, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. I've been here at Lodestar now for 16 years. I came from, a little bit more of the business background. I went to school, studied finance. Through that process of doing that, I ended up kind of jumping to the credit union system, kind of through a little bit of a connection through my mom. I actually knew somebody at a credit union, and that was like my first job into the industry. Started from kind of the bottom and really worked my way up through different jobs within the industry, and really fell in love with the credit union movement and the way that they thought about things and how they treat their members. And so that really excited me. And then over the years, I just sort of kept changing, kept trying different things, and sort of eventually fell more in love with the technology side of it. And that kind of took me into the foray of going from, credit unions and working more on the core banking side for a little bit, and then kind of fell into partnership and through connections of mine, fell into the role at Lodestar. And again, then kind of done many different roles here within Lodestar and kind of worked more into the tech side. And now kind of being the Chief Technology Officer, where I focus on, the product and analytics and forward thinking and the development of the system and making sure that the tool is doing what we say it should do and that it's servicing our clients to the best of its ability. So that's a little bit about me. And Lodestar as a company, it really was founded from the need to get data out of systems. It really started from core banking and getting that data out of that really complex, transactional core banking system, to getting that into a more usable format from just a pure, simply started as an operational data reporting system. And then over the years, it's evolved into a really multi-source data warehouse, overlaying on top of that analytics and machine learning and a little AI. And so really where we, our niche is in the credit union space. It was built from ground up, being very purpose-built, being built for credit unions, very focused on that credit union system, and just trying to service them better and trying to get them the data so that they can do their job better. They can, run the business better. They can service their members better. And so, yeah, it's been a really, really interesting journey over the last, for me, as I said, 16, almost 17 years.
How have you seen the credit union's journey evolve as it relates to using data and the need to use data as a part of their operation?
Yeah, it's it's funny. Sometimes you look at it, some days you think, oh my God, we've come so far. It's evolved so much. And at other times, then it's also like, well, a lot of credit unions are still in that old school way of doing things on spreadsheets. And, so it's funny that it's changed a lot, but it's still stayed the same in a lot of places. So we talk to our credit unions about their data journey. We talk to them about it, how they can get more mature in their data, how they can understand it better. But I think the nice thing is that most credit unions now understand that data is a nice to have. It's not a nice to have. Sorry, it's more of a must have. It's more they need to understand it better. So really, that's our focus: is the evolution of the data and using it more and more, and understanding that it's an asset to them and not just, I'm just compiling data just to compile data or just to use it for that one tool. But really, again, as I said, a lot as things change, some things still stay the same. So some credit unions don't really understand as much about the value of that data and that it's a strategic asset for them. And they're still just using it from an operational perspective. They haven't really scratched the surface on, how they can use it and how they can harness it, and what the potential is of that data. So it has come a long way. but there's still a long way to go.
What does the typical engagement when does a credit union come and talk to you guys? Are they doing a core conversion? Are they looking for a data warehouse? Are they looking for more, operational analytics? What's the typical engagement look like with a credit union?
That's a good question. It really runs the gamut. I mean, from our clients, we um, have had a lot of different interactions. Some clients will come to us because they're going from one system, one core conversion system, or one core banking system to another, and
Mm-hmm.
they're finding that the new one that they're going to, it's a little more challenging to get access to the data or build reports or do analytics. So they really have a need instantly to say, okay, I need to find a different solution to be able to help us on the analytics side, because they already have a little bit of a defined data strategy and they understand what they're looking for. um, and so that's when they come to us there. Other clients have come to us where they know that they need a data warehouse and they know that they need a data strategy, but they don't know how to get there, right? So they're
Mm-hmm.
just kind of trying to figure it out. They're early in the stages of it. They know that that's the terms of the industry of, I need a multi-source data warehouse and I need an analytics engine. And so they've come to us and we really are helping them through building their data strategy. And then others have come to, they have a tool internally. They're kind of in the middle ground, but the tool isn't going to get them to the next kind of evolution of it. So it gets them so far, it gets them some operational reporting, a little bit of look into that, executive kind of analytics, but doesn't really get them past that. So they're looking for more of a larger, more multi-source data warehouse with more capabilities. And so that's where, again, Lodestar comes in to kind of help fill that gap for them.
I want to dig into how you help credit unions develop their data strategy, right? Where do you start? I frequently I'll have conversations with organizations, and I'll be like, "What's the problem you're trying to solve?" And they say, "Well, we don't do X, right? Whatever X is." But that's not a strategy, right? Like,
Right.
how do you help the institution develop a strategy? Where do you start?
That's a good question. I think it starts from just really going in actually, maybe I'll step back for a second. Lodestar, how we built the company was really purposeful and really intentional. We all at the beginning, came from credit unions. So we really understand the credit union business. I think that's an important piece, is
Mm-hmm.
not being really an agnostic company that was in other industries and it's just about throwing data into a data warehouse. We really can help them through that because we've been there. We understand their struggles. So the conversation is really around, kind of top down first, of understanding, okay, what are you trying to accomplish as a credit union? Are you trying to grow? Are you trying to be more efficient? Are you trying to really service your members in a different way? And then having conversations with them. We with our clients have quarterly business reviews with them where it's really a whiteboard session where we're, throwing out ideas of what we're doing and how we think of data. We're talking to different business units within the credit union to understand all the things that they do day to day and trying to paint a picture of where can we get some quick wins of,
Mm-hmm.
that data strategy. How can we implement some things pretty quickly to help, so that they can spend less time in the manual process and more time in the data, understanding the relationships of that data. And then we really try to build a plan for them of the next 1, 3, 5 years of how do you get to that strategy that you've built.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that's the challenge sometimes, is the executives know what they want to do. They know that they want to, increase assets. They know they want to service their members better. They know they want to continue to grow members. But it's a little bit of sometimes how do you use the data to help feed that
Mm-hmm.
initiative? And that's where we try to really help them build that strategy, help them look at ways you can be more efficient, help them look at ways they can use that data. But it's not a one stop, hey, we're going to do this review and then here's your strategy. It's an evolution. As I said, we do it quarterly because we believe in that. It's always evolving and changing. And, as they grow and as they change, new things come to light and they become more mature. And then they start to ask more questions about the data. And that's where you really see the value of them, changing over time, really thinking about that data as an asset.
So your engagement with them isn't just, "Hey, here's your dashboard,"
Yeah.
right? It's here's how you operationalize it. Here's how you execute on that data.
Yeah.
Are there particular examples of successes that stand out in your mind that you could share?
Yeah, there's well, I mean, we have so many examples. We have over 50 clients. As I said, they're all using it in a bunch of different ways. Some are very operational, some are really strategic. But I think one that comes to mind for me that was really, really interesting and one of my favorites was a couple of years ago, we had a client who wanted to really kind of rethink about the way that their loan process was working, and they wanted to build what they called as a loan recapture engine. So we went in and we sat down with them and we talked about all of the different ways how they process loans, where do they feel the gaps are. And they already had, all their core data in the data warehouse, and they already had all their loan origination data in the data warehouse, which is really an untapped, data set for them, looking at kind of unbooked loans and loans that have come in and applicants that have come in. They already have all that data. But what they did is they brought in credit bureau data. So they purchased credit bureau data, and we kind of overlaid that on top and tied that all together. And then what we were able to do from that is we were able to sort of, estimate their current interest rates and understand what, they have out there as so far as loan volume. And then they were able to determine based on that, through that loan recapture engine, is how can they offer something better to their members. So they built in calculations that determine how each member could save by refinancing certain loans or, liabilities that they had at other credit unions, and refinance those and bring them back to the credit union from the auto loan and mortgage side of things. And then they use that data to drive emails, do direct mailing, outbound calling. And then all of that, because again, it's all derived from the data that's in the data warehouse. And we have a kind of a workflow tool that helps manage all of that. They were able to track the success of that. So they were able to go back and say, this is where we started. And then they were able to look at new loan applications that were booked. They were able to look at that every single day and kind of tweak that campaign as they were going through it. And then the end of it, the best of all of it, is they were able to sort of truly quantify the savings for their members. They were able to quantify the savings for, the fact that they brought in all of this, and they were able to kind of repurpose that money to go to the marketing effort as they were pushing that stuff out. So it's not really that, hey, here's a data warehouse, like you said, you're on your own, go with it. It's how can we help them kind of take an idea that they have and put it into practice and really gain value and measure the success of it and continually track it so that they can really understand and adjust on the fly.
What do you think the characteristics are of your most successful clients?
Yeah, it's that really, as I said a couple times, it's that thinking about data as an asset and a strategy. I think we're in that world sometimes too of, I want everything to be self-service. I want to hand this tool out to all of my staff across all the organization, and I want them to build a bunch of reports. You certainly can do that, and I think clients will see a lot of value in that for sure. But what we see as the most successful is when you have a team that is internally dedicated to getting the value out of that data, and then having cross collaboration between different departments from executive down, all the different departments across the organization, not having them necessarily be in silos similar to their data, not them be siloed and them have to figure out what to do, but having one sort of data team internally. And we find that IT is an important part of this. It's never discounting. IT is not going to be a big piece of it. But more of the business users having that ownership of that data and understanding, what they're doing with it. I think that is the most important part. And because they're living in it every day, they're breathing it, they're using it, they're able to, build the knowledge on that data. And then you're gaining the efficiency there, and they're helping each one of those departments see the value and gain the value from the data. I think that's the most successful from our clients. We see that clients that build their internal process that way, they get the best bang for their buck with their data, and they're able to kind of harness the power of the data asset that they have.
So some small credit unions just heard you say, you got to have a dedicated team to do it. Right? Yeah. Is that true? Is that the best use case, or how can a small credit union be able to take advantage of your services?
Yeah, I think we treat our, Lodestar, as I've talked a lot about, we help clients with their data strategy. So we treat Lodestar as a little bit of a, not just to set it and forget it, and here's your data warehouse and analytics tool, and you're on your own. Is we're an extension of your company. So we will help. We have really large clients that have big teams, but we're still quite involved on a day-to-day basis with them. We have small credit unions where there's maybe one key resource where we're helping them. They're using us as an extension of their department, and so they come to us to help them build integrations, build out analytics, build that strategy for them. So it's an evolution. I think it can easily start with one key resource internally within a small credit union, and then over time you can, as you continue to prove the power of that data and gaining efficiencies and cost savings and ROI on the data, then you can start to build that team out over time. I'll give a good example. We had a client who really, they were a smaller credit union, and now they've grown quite a bit over the 10 years that they've been with us. And they started with one, and now that department is about 6 or 7 individuals. So they just sort of grew that team over a longer period of time. You don't have to grow it right away in order to start. We've always kind of talked to our clients about that, is you got to start somewhere, right? You're not going to gain all the value instantly, but you can get business value pretty quickly by implementing some quick wins and some operational changes and efficiencies, and then start to build on that over time.
How do you help them extract data from the core? Is that a process that you guys run? Is that partnerships that you have? Tell me a little bit about how you break down get that data. And then, oh, by the way, data from these other sources as well, right? To break down those data silos.
Yeah, so I'll start with saying we've integrated data from 50 plus different institutes, different vendors. So we're that's really our core competency. That's really where we started. So we do have partnerships with a lot of vendors. Really through the client, they own the data and they have that partnership. And so we work closely with the client. We work closely with the vendor if they want to, allow us in there. And we help them do that. So we have a lot of off-the-shelf integrations where they're already defined and built, but allow our clients to also have a level of customization on top of that, because everyone uses the data a little bit differently, and everyone kind of understands it a bit and explains it differently. So we kind of again run the gamut of direct connections into core banking systems. We do API connections, we do cloud connections, we do data extracts out from different systems and kind of integrate that. So we try to handle a lot of the ETL, a lot of the integration from those different systems for them. So again, they can spend the time in the data and not spending time in the data management and movement of data. That's where really a lot of our time is spent on that piece. And we're always kind of constantly adding to our playbook of integrations that we have. Even clients have started to do a lot of custom. They have internal spreadsheets that they have in-house. They have homegrown systems that they've built over the years, and we integrate that data for them as well. So really trying to get to that single source of truth and trying to understand and get all that data into one place. So we really try to help them get that data, but we also think of it from again, not being agnostic and not trying to plumb every integration into the same sort of data set. We try to make it purposeful in that we say, if you're coming from this LOS system, it's going to do things a little bit differently than another LOS system. So we try to make sure that we're using the same terminology that system uses. We're trying to use the data as it's built into that system, and then simplify and flatten that data for the end user so that they're already kind of familiar with it. And again, instead of trying to put it into an agnostic system, which you kind of lose a little bit of that data definition we feel that when you do it that way. So yeah, it's a evolution and it's a process, and it depends on what you're integrating data with, but we try to offload that from our clients so that they can spend more time in the data itself.
In addition to this portfolio of connections, you guys also have a number of analytical tools. What types of analytical tools are you giving and making available to your clients?
Yeah, so as you said, we have the data warehouse that is an engine in itself. If that data isn't in the right format and right place, and it's not efficient and it's not ready, you're not going to be able to get the value out of the analytics side. But on top of our data warehouse, yes, we have a kind of industry-leading analytics tool that is really has everything to do from dashboarding and report content. And we again treat our system as similar to our data. It's not we're going to do everything for the client. It's not a lockdown system. There's each credit union has the ability to create as much content as they want. Lodestar can create content on their behalf if they want us to. They can build reports, build dashboards. They have complete control over that catalog and what it looks like and who has access to what. And each department can kind of have their own, look and feel and flavor. So we have the dashboarding side. We have a component of our application that is more of kind of that the letter generation and pre-built forms kind of things, building a larger extracts if they have to feed other systems externally. And then we also have what is called data visualization side, which is kind of the next level to the analytics and that, the typical dashboarding is more the power user, the end user is getting in and they're manipulating data in there. They're architecting data the way that they want based on their business need. They're using it actually has machine learning built in that provides insights into the data, even so far as building based on the data that is put into what is called a workbook. It's even building actual content for them based on the data so that they can already have a starting place as to understanding a little bit of what the data is and the relationship of the data, and they're not having to always start from scratch every time. So it kind of depends on what they're wanting to use the data for, but the analytics tool has a number of different ways to kind of present that data to, again, power users, data analysts, data scientists, all the way up to building and pushing out executive dashboards for the executive to kind of manage the credit union.
Does the democratization of data, the sharing of the data, does that lead to particularly sticky data governance rules? I mean, how do you approach that, right? When it's within the safety of a small group, a small team that's using it, you can create pretty solid data governance rules. How does your system help share that burden or share that load with all of the people who have access to and are using the data?
I think that's a very important question because it's where sometimes credit unions will struggle, and that's why I talked a little bit about that. Having that team that's really defining it and owning it a little bit, but still allowing self-service. So within our tool, we have a data dictionary. So every integration that we do, we pull that data in. It's really important for auditability and traceability and understanding of where that data is coming from is kind of the purpose of the data as well. So the data dictionary really fully explains from end to end, this is where the data was sourced from. This is any manipulation that was done to that data, any calculations or any things like that. And this is really the business terminology of what that data means, so that a non-technical user who is wanting to do a little more self-service analytics can do that. But then on top of that, we also kind of have some data governance, and it's a little bit of both. I think we also preach to our clients that they should have their own custom internal knowledge base. They should have a document, a living, breathing document internally that explains to their own internal data team, but also to their whole organization as to, what is the purpose of this data? When you have competing data, there's data in the core, there's data in LOS, there's data in credit card systems. What is the priority of that data? What is the definition? When you're writing a report, where should you go first to try to find that data? I think that's important for them to have a little bit of their own internal knowledge base, because that really helps with the governance of that data. But then again, on top of our data dictionary, the ability to add their own logic on top and their own, as I said, we do some custom, hey, you got this data element and you're using it a bit differently than a different credit union. How could we help build that into the ETL, but then also update the dictionary so it kind of shows them the customization that they've done, but then allowing them to say, okay, again, this data means this to us. This is our definition of a member. This is how we look at transactional data. And so allowing them to really have a fully flushed out sort of data governance, data dictionary documentation so that they understand all the different, complexities of that data. I think that gets overlooked a lot of the times, and people think of it as just, I'm going to throw data into a data warehouse and I'll figure out how to use it later. And then later, then you're struggling with, oh, wait, what does this mean? What is the definition of it? So I think we try our best to be purposeful when it comes to that and make sure that the clients have that thinking and knowledge about, again, their internal data and their internal knowledge base, along with Lodestar's knowledge base that we provide for them.
Mm. So as part of the CTO role, do you also oversee product for Lodestar?
I do, yeah. And we have an analytics team as well internally that kind of oversees the kind of analytics, and we have a development team that oversees a little bit more of the ETL process. But I sort of sit on top of that and make sure that anything that we're doing, we're intentional about what we do. That we are making sure that we're staying up with the trends in the industry. We're trying to be as cutting edge and as leading edge as we possibly can without taking on new technologies is not really adding value for our clients. So we're trying to, again, we think of it within Lodestar, the word of purposeful. We're trying to be really purposeful as to the product as well, intentional as to the things that we bring on. And so, yeah, for me, I'm thinking about, the little bit of that higher level. What is the next evolution of fintechs and credit unions, and what are credit unions looking at? So that's really, a big part of the current job that I'm doing now.
Well, that's going to be my next question, right? So what are the trends? Where do you see it going from a data perspective?
Yeah. I mean, there's lots of different trends. Obviously, AI is a big one out there. I think continuing to just look at the data and really gain the value from it, that's still a continuing trend. AI is a big one. Machine learning is also coming to the forefront, I think. And we've been doing it now within Lodestar for many years, but I think more and more fintechs are popping up around that. More and more fintechs are popping up around taking a smaller component of data and really drilling deep into the data. I think I've said a few times, the agnostic way, I think, is it's good. It's good for a certain purpose, but I think as you find, it's more the industry, or how I think of it, is it's getting more deep. How do you get more deep into that data? You're getting more and more data. How do you understand it at a deeper level? And so I see some fintechs that are popping up that are taking a smaller subset of data and carving a niche around that and getting more value out of that data. And then machine learning, as I said, there's more fintechs popping up around that. How do they take that data? How do you predict a little bit more, thinking a little bit more forward-looking and predictive? And then also, the buzzword of AI, and where does that fall into play? And so there's lots of changes around AI and how that can, help credit unions be more efficient and, gain value out of what they're currently doing.
It's not just about the volume of data, right? It's also around the timeliness of data.
Yeah.
How do you help clients shorten that time frame between kind of data creation and analysis?
I think that's a really important piece. And I think there's a third piece to that I think we find is really important. It's the data cleanliness too. If you just have, we talk about AI for a second, and you just have a bunch of data thrown into a data warehouse, and then you expect that you're going to be able to run models against it without doing any cleanliness, without definition on it, you're just going to be back in the same place that you were before you had AI and machine learning. Is you're not going to see the value out of it. You're not going to see the accuracy. So for us, it's sort of, you're right. It's data volume is a component of it. You have to collect a lot of data. When you get into that next evolution of trying to get deep into the data, you need more of it, obviously. When you look at machine learning, the more data you have, the better, because it can find correlation and it can find importance and relationship between that data. So that's really important. But it's also about definition. It's also about cleanliness of it. I think those are really the three kind of important pieces of it. Making sure that that's a focus on it, because, as I said, you can just start throwing data in there, but if you can't join it together, if you can't draw a parallel, if you can't understand it, you're going to just be in the same place. If you can't understand it and you can't sort of explain the definition to machine learning, to AI, it's not going to really give you the value that you're expecting from it.
How would a CEO, if you're the CEO of a credit union, how would you know if you're effectively using your data?
Yeah, that's a good question. For us, again, we look at making sure that everything we do when we're doing integrations, when we're building analytics, is that it becomes measurable. It's not just about doing something just to say I'm doing it. It's not like that. Hey, I'm going to check a box. Say, as a credit union, oh, we've got a data warehouse. As a credit union, we're doing machine learning. That's so tip the hat. Like, I've done it. Okay, cool. Move on to the next thing. It's more about making sure that as you're building these processes and as you're building out analytics, is that things within your institution become measurable. So that's a big component of what we try to preach to our credit unions, and really from the CEO when we're doing those strategy sessions is, you said you want to do member growth. You said you want to grow. Okay, well, how are we measuring that? Is it natural growth? Is it through acquisitions? Is it through, marketing efforts to bring in more members? You have to be able to measure that in order to know that you are successful in the analytics and the data that you have, and then also be able to pivot a little bit. So you asked the previous question around timeliness of it. I think that's a big piece of that too, is that we try our best to make sure that we're trying to get, we call it near real time. Yes, there's certainly the ability to go real time and always kind of get the most recent data. But we find that muddies the water a little bit. It's good for certain business cases, but we try to do near real time. When we look at integrations from core, it should be as of last night. When we look at LOS integrations, it should be multiple times throughout the day, so you're getting, real application data. But what that also allows them to do when we're timely bringing that data in is that allows them to adjust their strategy as they're moving forward. They're not waiting for month-end reporting, right? Like, looking back in the day, I think of when I was in a credit union and I was in the finance department and I built financials, is like, we didn't do it until the end of the month. Now you're in a world where credit unions can do it daily. They can look at that stuff daily and understand, are we going in the right direction before we even get to month end? So that's where the timeliness comes in, so that they can adjust that strategy as they put in a measure and say, okay, we're not up to par on that measure. We're not going in the right direction. How do we adjust on the fly?
If a credit union is interested in learning more about Lodestar, how do they contact you? How do they contact the company? Where should they check out online?
They can go to lodestartech.ca. That's our website. There's a contact form there. They can get some more information about what we do and what our focus is, and a little bit about our product. And then through that contact form, they can reach out, and our team will get back in touch with them and really have an insightful conversation, a discovery session to talk about what they're looking at doing, what is their strategy, what is Lodestar, how can Lodestar help? We want to help our credit unions and our clients kind of get to that next evolution of the analytics side of things. And so it's, as I said earlier, it's everyone's at a different level, and we try to kind of meet them where they're at and try to help build that relationship and partnership over a long period of time. So yeah, that would be the best place, is start to kind of go to our website and do a little bit of research, and then reach out, and that's where we start having those conversations and building the partnership.
Very awesome. Thank you very much for being on the show today.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
What an excellent conversation with Colin. I really appreciate him joining us on the show today. If you're going to GAC 2026, please check them out when you get there. As always, if you like this content, please like and subscribe on your platform of choice. Thank you very much for being here. We will see you next time.